Okay, you guys know what this month is? Yes, it is Watercolor Month. And I am totally starting out by being late. It's the 3rd of June already. I had a minor rabbit trail with some jelly printing, so I was able to kind of think about what to do while not doing it. And I'm glad that I had that time because what I was doing Thursday was actually trying to pick out one journal to keep it all in, because that's very likable. But now I decided to just work in several different journals to kind of spread it out. But I want to go through last year's Watercolor Month for me and show you how it can look when you are collecting your whole Watercolor Month work in one book, because it is special having it all in one journal, so it becomes like I don't know, it becomes like a collected monthly activity you did once a year. So it's going to be one journal that you kind of finish off in 30 days, and it looks awesome when the work is done. In 2020, I decided that my Watercolor Month should be with working with only one set, and it is a set that I bought from Debbie Epps. She's on Etsy. She has handmade her own watercolors, and I purchased the set called In the Vineyard, and it's a very shimmery set. And along with this set is 2 extra pans that she just gifted me because she's an awesome, cool person, and it's this one and that one. And then my friend Sandra from Scraps to Beauty gifted me her rose gold and a tomato red. So these, what is it, 6, 7, 10, oh, it's actually 10 colors. I worked with 10 colors for a whole month. It's shimmery colors, as you can see. So it is what it is. It turns out to be an awesome project where all the pages are looking cohesive because it's made out of only a limited palette. Back then I picked out the Cardi journal, Cardi paper journal, and it was shipped like this. It's bound signatures with no really front page other than just the paper, so you have to kind of decorate the front page yourself. And because I think that my front page came out so beautiful, I decided to protect it with a piece of leather. But let's do a flip through of last year's Watercolor Month work so you can see what I did last year. Last year was all about using napkins, stencil, and watercolors and Finnabair wax all in once. So on the front page I tried to throw all the medias that you will see in this journal. So we got like texture paste, we got some glitter paste, we got Tim Holtz tissue paper, we got a napkin, and then of course we have a drawing made where I utilized the 10 palette watercolors. The first spread when you open it up is kind of for me, because it symbolizes our quarantine period, where I feel that we, with a healthy mind, entered a year that kind of crackled up and showed how fragile we all are, because we suddenly had to face new challenges in the way of living and the way of earning. So that's why I choose these with a lot of crackles to show that everything is not a polished surface. There is cracks appearing, and it appeared in my case during summer where things were kind of tight in my end. Then, because we were not able to travel, I decided that this journal should be like a visual travel of where I was thinking of, you know, like just whatever came over my mind. And the first place I was thinking about the life of tree from the Viking Norseman mythology, Yggdrasil. It is the life tree, you know, the tree of life, you could say. And butterflies has always symbolized a spiritual ancestor animal for Viking. So of course I took some rune scripture and also used that as the background. And then I tried to paint a hand from where the butterflies are landing, just like symbolizing a greeting from our ancestors in a hard time. That would be like totally like in the Vikings, in the spirit of Vikings, you know. And then we traveled to, I would say, Pompeii, yeah. Because we went to a trip to Greece, and then we discovered that there was these plates hanging on old walls in the architecture, where there was these words saying Rhotas, Opera, Tenet, Arepo, Sator. And then it was translated into a Christian sign, because if you align these words up in a special way, it will say Padre Nostra, our Father, and then it will be a cross. So it's not really visual, but on this wall right here I got several Christian symbols that you can see when you walk in old villages of Greece and Italy. The fish symbol, the scale symbol, and also the Padre Nostra cross. So this was actually a visit to to Greece. And there also is this very famous sign right here. And then I used some napkins for the flower and the bird. And it's like a saying also, this is that you reap what you sow. So if you feed the spiritual mindset, you will gain from it. I think that's how they want to translate it. Then we took a trip to Russia because I bought a napkin with a wolf on at the supermarket, and it totally reminded me of like Siberia, you know, like a Russian wilderness, wolf at the tundra. So I tried to draw the mosque from Russia, those very significant towers with the special roofs. So I really like it a lot. A lot of stencil work once again. Okay, this one was in favor of Janet, because you know Janet M. Young, she's getting teased because of rulers. And then I just realized that, oh my god, I've actually seen the world's largest ruler myself, because we once took a trip to Egypt, and in Cairo there is this building, and it's measuring the water that comes from the Mediterranean Sea into the Red Sea, and also the flood Nile. Actually, up here in Cairo, there is this building that's got this built-in ruler where you can see how the water is standing in the Nile in the beginning of the flood. Because if there is a lot of water coming to the flood, they will have overflooded. So crops will be destroyed and people will be homeless, and it's not a good situation. If the flood is lower than the median, let's say it's right here, that's the medium, they will have famine. So once again, not a good year. And you might wonder, why was it necessary to build this very hard construction of a ruler? And I can tell you that they used it to measure out the level of taxes, because they can see on this rod right here that if the flood from the monsoon was just perfect, then it would be a good year with a lot of harvest, good crop, so they could tax more. But if it was a year with either overflood or famine, they could not tax people as they used to. So it's actually a tool. Let me see what I wrote here. I just wrote about this building is standing on an island called Rhoda Island. It's an Islamic monument. Yeah, but nothing else I wrote. I just wrote a tiny notes on each page. Then I received some Happy Mail in June, and it was the tomato red from Sandra. And I was really like, oh my God, did she really give me this? Because there's something very significant about this hue that the red have in this pan. We went to a trip to Maramis, that's in Turkey, and we visited a mosque is it called. And we saw the tile works in that mosque, and it was a tile work from classic, it's called Iznik tiles. And it's like these classic flowers. And the mosque, you have to recall that when you enter the mosque, it's a very tall building when you're standing inside of it. So the tile work is just mesmerizing. It's wall decoration that goes like all the way up, and everything is just so symmetric, drawn, hand drawn, that it's, I mean, it's incredible to watch. And then they were telling this tourist guide, he was talking about the pigments that they used back then, and it's metal oxide, turquoise green and red. And then the red is very special because it's a pigment that none of them really have been able to reproduce. So copying the tomato red from these Iznik tile is just impossible, because they can't find how they mined it and where they mined it, that particular red tone. So this Turkish tulip is painted in what they call the Anatolian bulb red, and the Anatolian red is very similar to the tomato. So isn't it just a funny coincidence that over in the state there is this woman who ships me a tomato red that assemble this very special Anatolian bulb red in a time frame where I'm making a travel journal. So for me it was just like, oh my God, Sandra, you're like got like divine connections. And then because I was getting my minds into Turkey, I really had to paint this, because I found a napkin that was gifted to me from Kathy Burke, and the napkin had some globes on it. And I was thinking about, in the desert of Jordan in Damascus, there is this bathhouse called Qasar Aram, and it's imagine you're how can I even set up the scene? Like you're traveling on a camel in the glowing hot desert, and then you finally see a man-made construction, and of all constructions ever, it's a bathhouse. I mean, a house with running water, just water alone, the sound of water in the middle of the desert. And then in this bathhouse, there is this dome right here. When you're lying in the tub, in the spa, underneath this dome and look up, this is your view. You will look up in the ceiling where they drew out the map of the world, and then it's enlightened with windows representing the four corners of the world. So it's just one of those treasures that the deserts keep, and everything is preserved because of the heat, so it's amazing. And this is because I received, like I said, a Happy Mail from Kathy Burke with a lot of awesome napkins. One of them was these trees, so I was thinking about it could be something from Norway with a Viking woman, or it could be something from Ireland woods with a Celtic woman. So I made this spread and then gave her a Celtic jewelry in her forehead. What I did on most of these pages is that I used the foil. So I don't know if you can see these shimmery parts here. That's foil. So that's why some of the sheets maybe sounding like they're sticky, but it's just that foil that makes it stick a little bit. There is a YouTube channel called Her Billowing Heart. I watched that last year in 2020, and she had this balloon, and I was thinking, oh, that's awesome, because it's something to do with travel also. So I made this gorgeous, gorgeous journal spread inspired by her billowing art's way of creating, because she also is super fond of shimmery pink paint and feminine pages. So I like it a lot. Then I noticed that on Tim Holt's tissue paper, there was this text, Muséum National d'Histoire Naturelle. It's like the National History Museum in Paris. And I have been there with my son in 2013. Me and my son, we went to Paris. And with us, we had fake mustaches. That's why there is cutouts of mustaches from a Kathy Burke napkin. I mean, a lot of napkins that I got is from Kathy Burke, so you're gonna hear her shout out 1,000 times. But it was just so funny to have that tissue paper with a map on it. The map is actually gifted to me from CB, and it was a map of Paris. So this page was just, had to be done. Painting the Historical National Museum when you view it out front, and then one of the skeleton displays inside. I know it's very tough to see in the recorded because I use shimmery paint, but it's like skeletons of dinosaurs. So, yeah, that's this spread. Whoops. This was one of the most difficult napkins because there was like a lot of color and a lot of things going on in the napkin itself. So how can you accomplish it with some painting? So I tried to make a spread showing something about the human mind over time. Like the more you read over time, hopefully the more educated you will be, and the older you get, the more useful ideas you sometimes can have, because it seems to me like you're getting more real when you are getting older. Like, you know what's possible financially, time-wise, effortless. You can kind of sort out in your ideas and then make them happen. So it doesn't just become like a daydream, but it will be carried out in real life. So I think that's what I wanted to try and make with this spread here. All of my spreads are like just a little bit strange. Here I watched a stream from Bob Owen where she decorated a beautiful mandala, and it made me think about the rose, the what's it called, glasswork, stained glass window from Notre Dame. So, and I've been there when I visited France in 2013 with my son. So of course I drew the front of Notre Dame where you see the gate here, and then the rose. So I really like some of the texture. I can't believe that this is watercolor. It just looks so ancient, so old, so vintage. So I am pretty surprised that with a couple of stencils, a soft watercolor palette, you can actually create something that looks like so vintage. I really hope that the colors comes out the way that I'm viewing them, because it's a very beautiful watercolor palette. Okay, I only got the light that I got. But as you might notice, I did like a horrible job renditioning the mandala shape of this glass stained window. So I had to redo it. So here I'm putting in an effort, and so I'm trying to make a more prettier glass stained window because I don't know. There's so much symmetry in it, so doing it free-handed without a ruler, I mean, Janet would spank me, and so would Barb, saying like, Leela, you got so many tools, so why do they have to do such an awful job? But on this spread here, I'm giving a shout out to that bird lady that was outside Notre Dame. I mean, she came out of nowhere, and in her hand she had a plastic bag filled with breadcrumbs, and it was like the birds knew who she were. She was wearing a red headscarf. Before she entered this place, there is this kind of a tiny, what is it called when there is a, not a courtyard, but there is like a, oh man, I'm searching for words. It's not a park. It's made out of stone. It's a place where you can like hang out, like a town hall or something outside. And we were sitting there, me and my son, on this bench, and then it was clear, right? The second this lady emerged with her red headscarf, hundreds of pigeons resting up from the tower of the Notre Dame flew down, landed on top of her. She was totally covered in pigeons, and then she just slowly, with soft moves, emptied out her breadcrumbs from her giant bag, fed all the pigeons, and when she left, so did the pigeons, and everything was back to normal. But that break in life was just like, wow, oh my god. So, awesome. This is more like just, I call it like memory, and then a seascape, and then this person thinking or reminiscing good times. For me, it's just like holiday memories, you know. I try to make a watercolor drawing showing that. So, more about memories, thinking in the sun. I'm picturing that this lady is sunbathing in the city just in her own thoughts. And then we went to Florence in 2015, and there was this fortune board where you had to touch the snout, and then it would bring you financial fortune. So this poor statue of bronze was just rubbed so much on the snout and on the shoulder that it was down to the bare metal. But it was just funny, you know, that they got this lucky pig in the middle of the market. And here I don't really have a story other than I was watching a stream from Kathy Arbor where she, well, I can see that I gave a shout out to Kathy Arbor right here for this page, but honestly I don't know if it was like something in particular other than showing how you can maybe use a background that's jelly printed and then put in your own face and then make some hair. I don't know. No, or maybe I know. Maybe this is about her showing us how to work with stencils and watercolor. Could be. She's so talented. So trying to figure out what happened in my head when I saw this particular stream of hers is, I don't know. We took a road trip to a place called the King of Halls. They have re-erected a Viking hall building in natural size, and we went inside. This is me sitting inside where there is like this really awesome wood carving. I think that a lot of people view the Vikings as totally primitive, but I'm telling you, they are not. When you see how they can carve and decorate wood, it's just mesmerizing. So I tried to at least get the carved Viking pillars on this drawing, and then the drawing of the inside of this, I would call it like Hall of King house. But it was fun to, you know, be outside, view things how it really looks in real life, and then put it in a sketchbook. So of course there is some drawings here inspired by different things. First, the Havhingsten. It's a reproduction of a Viking ship done in Roskilde Fjord. Roskilde is not far from where I live, where they got this Viking museum that I was very much interested in 2020. And they have managed to build a gorgeous Viking ship with their bare hands, using only ancient Viking traditions, which means like no modern tools. Then I watched a stream with Janet M. Young where she centangled. So I totally wanted some Viking centangles on this page. And then I wanted to write a little bit about the runes, because a lot of people think that here in Denmark that these grave tombs are like from the Vikings, right? It belongs to the history of Norse mythology, but seriously, no. In Menger, it's in the south of Spain. 6,000 years ago, they built these constructions as tombs. So it's not something that belongs to Norse mythology. It's not like a jættestue, as they call it in Danish. It's not something that was invented by the Vikings. They must have traveled and seen it in the Antiquera, South Spain, and brought it with them up to the north. So it's kind of fun, you know, how when you read about history, you bump into things like this, and then you realize that, oh my God, I remember in school we were taught that these were jættestue erected by Vikings because they symbolized something special in the Norse mythology. And then as an adult, you watch a history channel, and then they're talking about these constructions done 6,000 years ago in a whole different place on the globe. So you have to put two and two together in your own head, thinking like, what? So yeah. Okay, and this is like a strange one. My son asked me, how come that the light can find a carrier to travel in the universe when sound can't, if both of them are traveling on wave frequency? And I think that question rose because he has seen a movie called Gravity or something, where they stressed out that nobody can hear you scream in space. And it just made him ponder, you know, like if light and sound is traveling with the same wave frequency, then how come that sound is not being carried out when the light is? So we spent a whole evening searching online, as I'm trying to show here, about dark matter and what did I write? And found out that there is this thing called the stabilizer proton. So we actually found an answer to our question. And yeah, it was just love it when our kids grow a certain age, they throw a question, and without going to the library, you can actually find a reasonable answer. Amazing. So in this drawing over here, I'm also trying to show how small our world is because of the internet. You can find knowledge there, you can travel, you can have long distance friendships from living in each end of the globe and still be in touch. So like you can see, a lot of my journal spreads got like really weird stories behind them. But yeah. And now comes some paintings that don't have any personal story or personal motivation for being painted. It's because it's Watercolour Month. So what I also did this month was to paint on large, huge sheets inspired by some watercolor artists that I studied that month. And one of them was Tony White, and he's got this very special large watercolor painting of people crossing an English bridge. And I just really loved the way that he resembled his light and the statues that are very detailed. It is like gargoyles. But he managed to, with light strokes, to do a rendition that really tells you that it's gargoyles anyway. So I just like the way he paints. Another top-notch male painter with watercolors that I really admire. He's called Joseph Subukik. I'm butchering his name. He is so fantastic skilled. I know that a lot of people like Alvaro Castanera, but I'm telling you, Joseph Subukik is in that league too, if not, in my opinion, even better in a way. I don't know. His way of renditioning everyday cities, you know, what we see every day, not just huge monuments, bridges, gorgeous sunset, but like the everyday cityscape in a snowy day or rainy weather, or, I mean, he's just so freaking awesome. Then of course you can't watch watercolor painters without running Terry Harrison. So I looked at one of his books about how to paint seascapes and the sea, and found this image of two boats, and I really loved the way that he used that totally straight horizon. And then I read about it, and it turns out that even though it looks kind of boring having a straight horizon line all this way up on the paper, there is a reason why he chose this composition. First of all, this line up here gives a very calm stabilization, so when you look at it, it is de-stressing. We're talking about art that can help you relax. A lot of water giving you the sense of clarity. So in a way, it's just interesting for me to read about. Sometimes you don't need a lot of action to improve your painting. So the idea that I had before studying this, with putting in a couple of seagulls and the silhouette of a ship and sail, just vaporize. Can you see how it's not necessary to embellish and decorate a horizon at all if it brings you calm and peace when you leave it alone? So I kind of learned that and took that with me from my last Watercolour Month. There is also a female painter called Alison C. Board. She's into loose watercolor, very intuitive painter, and oh my God, I can't even make a rendition close to what she's able to. But what she's working with are more like feminine colors, like purple, indigo blue, light colors. She also likes contrast done with umber and sepia, and not so much black. And most of the green tones that she got in her work is created from the mixture of colors on the paper, like for instance putting the pigment down next to each other, and then it mixed on the paper her green shades. So I'm very amazed about her style and her way of letting I don't want to say random strokes, it sounds wrong, but you know, it's like, it's never a coincidence that this brown, almost like olive green, sap green color appeared. It's because she took an ultramarine and then probably an umber and then some cream gold, and then we call it happy accident, but she's kind of pushing it so it's like a deliberate happy accident. And I wanted to learn to paint like her when I grow up. She's so skilled. Carolyn Holman, I think it was Janet M. Young who made me look in her direction, or maybe it was Kathy Arbor, I'm not sure. But Carolyn Holman is also a very loose watercolorist, and she paints so beautiful. She's one of those women who you could call it abstract, but you still very much know what you're looking at. You know that fine line between it's not so super detailed that it's like what's it called, realistic rendition, but it's not either so loose that it's just a happy accident. She knows exactly what she want to paint. So I just like the way that she's using granulating pigments, making it mix on the paper. Totally done wet and wet. I mean, love it, love it. And Caroline Holman is pretty much what I ended up looking at for the rest of that watercolor month. Because it was summer, all her watercolors was just speaking summer to me. So I must admit that for the rest of that watercolor month, I just kind of got stuck in the Caroline Holman universe. And I did try and work with some of, I think, her most delicate summer pieces because they just speaks joy to me. This is unfinished because I don't want to touch it. It's one of those watercolor pages where you take saran wrap and put on top of it and then leave it to dry, and then the next day when you arrive you get these gorgeous pages. Yeah, look, my journal is falling apart, and it's because this journal came without a cover, so now now it's fallen even more apart, but it was falling apart before, as you can see. But when you put saran wrap on top of this, you get this beautiful, beautiful pattern. I don't even want to try and break this up by adding something to it. I want it to be standing left alone to remind me about this beautiful texture forever. So even though I thought that this is going to be pages I should return to and finish, they just kind of look finished to me. Terry Harrison is in love with masking fluid, so I did try and make this rendition of one of his puppies paintings by using masking fluid, but I can't say that I really like it. And then of course watercolor done by following a Lindsay Frugal Crafter tutorial had to be in this book because she's the one that I started back in 2017. I followed her Friday live stream. Recall? She had like live stream every Friday where she was painting mostly with watercolors. And this is like a typical Friday live stream that she would do. So fun. And then I end off my journal by having this wet and wet feather thing. But seriously, it was a super awesome month. Can you see how I didn't put numbers on my pages? I just trusted that by the end of the month I would finish off this journal. It would represent a watercolor month where I had my own agenda about making a traveler's journal, and then ending it off by showcasing some of the fabulous watercolorists that I at that moment was really fascinating by. So love it. And what's so lovable about this journal is that it's like one book, 1 month, one inspiration source. So because I really enjoyed that it was so captured in one certain place, the next month last year, I'm gonna show this anyway because it's also like one book, one project. Mary Atelier was doing one project in 2020 out of many. She actually told us that we could do one page each day with a face. So in September I took up the challenge about making a face a day. Mary Atelier was having the idea from another YouTube channel that I don't recall the name of that, but I'm only at that time watching Mary, so I am following along at Mary Atelier's face a day progress. And in September, I created myself this homemade journal out of wood pulp papers containing exactly 31 pages, so it would be like 1 page per day. And the task is to just have focus on painting faces. So I start to tell a little bit about the time that I live in, because we started wearing masks pretty late in Denmark. I know that in other places of the world they started during summer, but it was mandatory at least in September 2020 in Denmark. And it's been that for, I think, quite a while, maybe 2 months or something. But it was just new for me to enter the fall where people are wearing scarf, mask, hat. I mean, just wrapping up, looking more and more like a mummy. So that's what I'm writing about here. This page is from Kathy Arbor, who had a stream. So the first page here in this month of Face a Day journal, I revisited the first art supply that I ever tried to sketch faces with. And back then I had like this very bad watercolor set from Stettler. I don't have it anymore. I kicked it out. But I repurposed a set quite similar in quality, but I purposed it because of the tin. I can really, it's a likable tin. Once you have used up these, you can have your own little fancy travel set. So yeah, that's how much of the novelty set ends up in my stashes, because I think I can repurpose it when they're empty, right? So on a stream, I try to set up a face as I would when I started out, by using the Jane Davenport techniques. And I really like the way it came out. Then, believe it or not, but the next art supply that I actually was interested in my journey was alcohol-based markers. So of course I tried to do some alcohol-based markers sketches, inspired by Villaggio on Pinterest. And then the next art supply that I purchased was Faber-Castell Pitt pens, artist Pitt pens in a skin tone and a gray set. So I found this Old Man Winter, I Hope He Dies Soon by KKEEL Art. So it's a person who made this, not my my idea. And then the first real art supply set, going all in, that I bought was the Inktense pencils by Derwent. And back then I also enrolled in something called Derwent Manga Masterclass, and I remember one of the figures called Burning Hero. It's created by the artist Hayden Scott Barron, who also have done a lot of figures creative for computer games, characters. So this is Burning Hero by Derwent Manga Masterclass. Then I was still in the pencil, so of course I tried the Inktense, which is an ink-based pencil. Then I wanted to try a real watercolor pencil. So the first set that I got of watercolor pencils was from Fantasia, and it was a 36 colored pencil set, and I still have it this day today and use it. I really like it. It's a very likable pigment colored pencil. It's not that famous, you could say, like it's not so familiar a brand, but I like it a lot. So I tried to make a face where I utilized all the good things you can get from having pigments in a pencil form, because you can dilute it with water, make it act like watercolor. You can draw and sketch with it. You can do mark making. What's not to love about that media, right? It's like 3 things in one. Then I was gifted by my hubby a Grapho sepia pen, and it's like this thick barreled holder that can hold some pigment graphite sticks that you can buy either in the color black or sepia, or so you buy the sticks separate from the holder. Now I am trying to see if I can locate where it is. Oh my god. Hey, it's not hoarding if you can find it in under 5 minutes, right? Let me see. I'm still struggling. It's here somewhere. The thing is that the more stuff I get, the more crowded it becomes in this holder. It should be down here. No, it's not that one. Okay. Oh, it's here. You simply just buy these graphite sticks on their own, and then you got this metallic holder for it, and it lasts like forever and ever. And I don't want to take it apart because my fingers are like, but if you take this one out and you need a little bit of strength in your fingers, there is this thing where you can put this and sharpen it. So it's a cool tool. Okay, the next art supply that I used was the Aqua Pastels from Jane Davenport, and it's a water-soluble crayon. So of course I had to try and make a Jane Davenport style girl. And here I used the Jane Davenport watercolor, no, not watercolor, the Jane Davenport pencils, color pencil, called the Magic Wand. This is a huge mess. Oh my god, Jane Davenport got something called mermaid markers. It's a very potent ink brush pen, and trust the mess is Jane Davenport's quote, and hallelujah, you really have to trust the mess when you're playing with those. Peel is watercolors, and here I tried to make like a sculpture out of texture paste. Either you like it or you don't. But it was fun to make. This is Posca pen, and it's totally, not all artwork is satisfying to look at, but I kept it anyway, because that's a cool thing about when you're doing one thing a day, then you have to stick with what you're doing. So here I'm trying the acrylic Posca markers. On my next list of shopping journey came the Tombow markers, and they are water soluble, so it's a water-based ink marker. Fun. And then, but look how fixed I am on pencils, right? Pastel pencils was the next one. So I made some pastel pencil drawings on pastel paper, and just took a plastic sheet to put over it instead of fixing it with a pastel spray. And it's because I used a lot of white for this skin tone, and when you're using fixative spray, some of the white get killed, and it's just a shame. So then I ventured into trying the gelatos by Faber-Castell. I still use them today. I learned how to make a very smooth skin tone by using gelatos, so it kind of upped the ante for whatever medium I picked ever since. And then I bought some gouache, and I have like a love-hate relationship to gouache. It's an opaque medium. It's still water soluble, but it just never really gotten under my skin, because if I have to do the same drill, I would really prefer using watercolor instead. But it's just a matter of taste. The next art supply I bought was wax crayons from Jane Davenport. And on my portrait done with wax crayons, I was so inspired by Mary Atelier, who used her heat gun to melt them. So I did this portrait with melted wax crayon, And look how beautiful the backside is. Look, it's almost a ghostly artwork of itself. So I kind of let that one be. And then, acrylic paint. So I bought some acrylic tubes. So of course I had to do the two different kinds, because I bought just acrylic, you know, like crazy colored acrylic, and then I bought a skin flesh tone set from Jane Davenport that I'm using on this one, every one of the colors. So acrylic it was. Let me do like this. And now we come to watercolors. But would you guys believe that I passed through 18 different art supplies before I ventured and really got lost in the rabbit hole of watercolor? Here I'm using the Sennelier brand because it's my most lovable first love I ever had. Watercolor was Sennelier, and it came in this wooden box and with a porcelain tray, mixing tray, and the Raphael squirrel brush. I mean, this was just like a day in heaven. So I had to try and make like this very delicate French lady with the watercolor portrait for this journal. After that, I bought the Graphitint pencils. It's a water-soluble pencil, so it's still fun. And then I believe the same week I bought the tinted charcoal pencil set from Derwent, because I was so blown away about how cool the Graphitint pencils were. So I had to try out the charcoal set in the same brand. And then I splurged and got myself the big new Color 2 Aquarelle 64 crayon set. And after that, it was my birthday, so I got myself the Creative pencil set. I still have it. It's this one. And it's I even wrote "Happy Birthday to me" on the lid. It's oil-based pencils, super cool to sketch with. You can get a really firm point, so it's not like a Prismacolor that will like snap on you, and yet it's not like a polychromas where you have to burnish a lot to get full covers of mass tone. It's a very likable sketch set, actually. Then I ventured out into the oil pastels. Kind of fun. I actually got the tray right next to me here. I bought the Guitar Oil set. Guitar Oil pastel set. Now they look like I don't know what. But back then it was like a beautiful set of oil pastel sticks. I ventured out into pan pastels. So it's a little bit creepy to look at, but I really like this guy. He's not sprayed with fixative spray, so once again I just take a plastic sheet to put on top of him. It's a little bit difficult for me to get details with the pastel softs tool, so that's why there's like not a lot of detail on this guy, but you could go in and make details if you wanted to. And then I bought the shimmery watercolor pan set from Debbie F, the one that I have right here. And Sandra from Pink and Paper Studio gifted me a watercolor pan containing her rose gold and her mermaid lagoon. So I tried to do on black watercolor paper using the mermaid lagoon this portrait, and it's got like holographic like it looks just like holographic. The woman looks totally scary. But I think it's the eyes that make her so scary. But using shimmery watercolors on black watercolor paper, it really takes some practice. Then I bought an oil set from Winsor & Newton. It's the water mixable oil, so you can paint without using Gamsol or mineral spirit. so it dries up. It totally is like working with regular oil. I can really recommend that. It's loose because it's painted on canvas that I gessoed first, so I just need to glue it in. Oh my god, the magicals, the magicals. I tried the magicals. I got a love-hate relationship with the magicals. I should really force myself and use them often to get to know it. I think it's difficult to work with them because I'm not a very messy person, so I think it's annoying that after a playing session with magicals, weeks after you find it on your table surface, on your keyboard, on your stuff, it's just like New Year's Eve confetti. I mean, you can never really clean it up. Trying the guitar inexpensive oil pastel sticks convinced me that oil pastels is a fun creature to create with, so I ventured out into buying the Sennelier oil pastel set, and then I tried to make this portrait with it. Very creamy, very likable stick. And then I received in Happy Mail the Mission Gold watercolor set from Janet M. Young, handmade in a wooden case with this tray that you can lift off to put in even more paint. This is so special. This is so special. I can't even word how much I treasure this set. So of course it had to have a page in my journal. It is so awesome. That's the first painting I ever did with the Mission Gold. So it's fun in a journal like this, where you on one page is representing the tool and then the first drawing that you made with it. I love it so much. This is a precious journal. Then I tried to fill out the journal's last page with my least way of creating, and that is doing a sketch only using ink ballpoint pen. And it's because it wears down my hand. It's not even as detailed as it could be. You could go like all the way with a lot of shading and mark making, but my hands are not just created for that, you know. It's not good for my, I don't like to wear down my hand like that. So that's why I haven't done a lot of these things. This is the Tim Holt Distress Markers. Yeah, it's just, it's on its last breath. Some of them have dried out a little bit, but like Mary Atelier taught us, we can take a pipette and then put water inside of it and then relive them so they won't like totally dry out. But it's like, yeah, markers that are ready to be retired from my room soon. Yeah, but the whole ordeal about going through these two journals was to show you guys how you can make yourself a monthly 30-day challenge where you designate one specific journal to your project, and then you will end up with a book containing that fun you had one month where you kind of duck into a subject and stay true to it. It will leave you with this kind of treasure in the end, and I think it's so special to have a journal like this among the mix of other regular journals that you got. So yeah, other than that, I just wanted to show this, and then now I'm going to paint my first Watercolour Month 2021 painting. Maybe I will include it with this upload or make just a separate one so it won't be such a long upload to watch. But I hope that you play along with Watercolour Month July 2021. Oh, I keep mixing up those 2 months. Sorry, but bye bye.